With Season 1 and Dairanger, it was a straightforward adaptation, but when it comes to Season 2, it was anything but simple. In this video, I'll be looking at what was lost when they cut the Dairanger suits, the pieces of Dairanger that ended up in other seasons, Lord Zedd replacing Dairanger's villains, and how MMPR integrated Dairanger into the show. Because Saba decided they wanted to keep the Dairanger suits for the second season, this forced basically 80% of Dairanger's footage to be unusable. Now, Dairanger is very different from Dairanger. It focuses more on mythical elements from Chinese stories like Sun Wukong, with the suits and gear also heavily inspired by Chinese martial arts and clothing. I still think it was a bad call overall. I can understand not adapting the villains, but there were still elements from Dairanger that got passed over to Dairanger that could have worked as a linking point. And the MMPR suits did get stale in the middle of the season. Seeing so many new things, Zords, White Ranger Tommy, you look at the MMPR suits and go, why? Dairanger did have its own issues. The actors were not fight trained as much as past seasons, so this time around Dairanger set out to fix that, while leaning into what worked great in Dairanger, the combinations and the 6 Ranger parts. They improved on the civilian fights, in some cases too much where the parents complained about them. Since MMPR recycled the Dairanger suits, they kept their morphers and powers. The Dairen suits, loads of weapons, Kiba Changer, and the Aura Changer, but it did end up in Lost Galaxy as the Magnamorpher. Like Dairanger, each of the Rangers is titled based off their animals, with the exception of the 6th Ranger. He's based off a tooth due to his backstory. The Aura Changer is a 2-piece transformation device. While the show never said their names, the right arm changer is called the Aura Gather, with the left called the Aura Spreader. The powers the Dairangers possess are based on Ki. It's like the Ki energy Dragon Ball uses, so they have powers similar to them. For the Dairangers to transform, the Aura Changer appears on their wrists. They then clench their hands and pull back their arms, followed by pushing their arms forward. At this point, they start saying the activation phrase, Kyoku. Then they grab the Gather key and extend it, continuing the activation phrase, Tenshin, lifting up their right arm, then inserting the key into the spreader as they yell, Aura Changer. This translates to Ki Power Transformation Aura Changer. Mike uses most of the same hand gestures, but his morph starts from pulling out the activator and then yells out Magna Power. The Kiba Changer functions much the same. Instead of having the Aura Gather, Ko has the Kiba emblem. For him to transform, his emblem key and spreader appear on his arms. He first yells out the same activation line, Kyoku. Ko then crosses his wrists, yelling out Tenshin, spreads out his arms, then yells Kiba Changer as he inserts his emblem. The Dairen suits are made from a material called dye fiber, and their helmets are made from dye metal. Ko's chest armor is called the Kiden Goken Kibetector, mythical Ki strong metal Kibetector. Bokenger took inspiration from this and based the Exceltector off Ko's armor. The Dairangers have 2 sidearms, called the Star Sword and Star Cutter. Combining both creates the Die Buster. This is one of the few pieces of gear MMPR used from Dairanger, specifically the Star Cutter. If you got the Power Cannon toy, it came with this handle, heavily modified. Bokenger also took inspiration from Dairanger's sidearms, with their Survive Buster. Other weapons they have is a staff weapon called the Dairen Rod, which has different head attachments for each ranger. The Soryuken, Double Dragon Sword, Shishi Combo, Lion Kugel, Tenma Nunchucks, Pegasus Nunchucks, Kirin Kosetsuben, Kirin 9-part Whip, and Yari Ho, Phoenix Spear. The last of the lost weapons is the Dairenken, Big Wheel Blade. They use their Ki power to throw it at enemies. Now, the 2 weapons that PR did use are the Power Cannon and of course Saba the Talking Sword, which I always found stupid that all of the other Asian equipment didn't fit in for PR, but the giant dragon bazooka was fine. The Power Cannon was called the Kyoku Bazooka, Ki Power Bazooka, and Saba was Byakko Shinken, White Tiger True Sword. So how different was Saba in Dairanger? Well, Byakko had a different personality. He was there to protect Ko. They didn't want people to know who Kiba Ranger was, so he doubled as his ranger voice, and also taught him how to use his stuff. That's why Tommy and White Light argued with Saba, but PR quickly moved away from that, so Saba ended up more of an assistant to Tommy. Remember when I said Dairanger kept a few ideas from Dairanger, like the Dino Metals? The Dairanger animal powers are stored in their Tempo Rairai no Tama, Heavenly Treasure Lilite jewels. These jewels were passed down their family line when they were ready to become Dairangers. This is where the wrong Tiger Power coin came from in the Tigerzord set. While Season 2 still didn't make the bikes on the show, the toy line did, which were from Dairanger. They were called the Keeper machines, from Red Keeper 1 to Pink Keeper 5. MMPR just modified the stickers and changed Green Keeper to black. Of course, the main thing MMPR kept are the Thunderzords. In Dairanger, they're called the Kidenju, mythical key beasts. Most of the animals were kept as is, but the Unicorn and Griffin Thunderzords were originally a Pegasus and Keelin. Dairanger is also where PR got Warrior Mode from. It was only used for this season, but it became a main name for most single Zords that had a transformation. The Thunder Assault Team formation was called Shisei Gattai Tenku Kiden, 4-star combination Heavenly Key Palace, and the Thunder Megazord is called Daireno, Great Union King. After Tommy lost his powers, he returned as the White Ranger, bringing in his new Tigerzord. In Dairanger, it's called Kidenju Wan Tiger, Mythical Key Beast Wan Tiger, and its Warrior Mode, Kiden Bujin Wan Tiger, Mythical Key Warrior Wan Tiger. For its Mega Tigerzord combo, Kiba Daio, Fanged Great King. And the Green Turtle, Tor the Shuttle Zord, Tro Kidenju Daimugen, Super Mythical Key Beast Daimugen, and Tor's Warrior Mode, Jo Kiden Bujin Daimugen, Super Mythical Key Warrior Daimugen. Daimugen translates as Great Infinity. Lastly, the Thunder Ultra Zord, Juko Kiden Heavy Armor Chi Palace. Now for the villains, everyone knows that Lord Zedd was made for MMPR. This happened because unlike Dairanger, all of the primary featured villains for Dairanger were all played by human actors. It would just be a lip sync mess. Plus, due to the complaints Dairanger got, except for a few monsters, all of the bad guys were very serious, so nothing of the monsters could be used. Minus Rita, everyone was recycled and Y-Squat and Babu basically just vanished. Lord Zedd doesn't have a direct counterpart, but he replaces the Gorma Triumvirate. I'll go into more detail of their stories in part 2, but the Triumvirate are 3 generals that serve the main bad guy: Zydos, Shaddam, and Gara. They wear leather suits and could change their skin into a metal-like substance. MMPR did end up using Shaddam in the Christmas book episode. It's pretty funny if you know what was going on in Dairanger. Lord Zedd also brought with him his Z-Putties. I hated those guys, but they were better than the original minions. They were called Cot Patrols. Their design was lame. They looked like guys in tuxedos. Either way, both minions sucked. The only other thing they kept was the Growth Bomb. I will say, Lord Zedd did capture Dairanger's serious tone, so if he did exist in Dairanger, I'd argue he'd fit in fine. In next week's video, I'll be discussing Dairanger's story, the darker villains, where Master Org came from, Daimugen's backstory, attacks, finishers, Serpentera, and the unique monsters of Season 2. If you have a suggestion or a topic you'd like me to cover, leave a comment down below, and I might use it next time.